Master Detective.
Yes, it's another case for that most famous of all manhunters, the detective whose ability at solving crime is unequaled in the history of detective fiction. Nick Carter, Master Detective. Tonight's curious adventure is...
The Echo of Death. Or Nick Carter and the Phantom Clue.
No, please, don't kill me. Don't kill me.
Hold him still. They're just like that. This has got to look right.
No, I'll do anything you say. I'll forget everything I know. Only don't...
All right. He's dead. Now come on.
Hello? Yes, this is Nick Carter speaking. A case? What kind of case? A disappearance. Well, that's hardly in my line. Oh, I see. Yes. Yes, I understand. All right, expect us late this afternoon. Did you get that on the extension, Patsy?
I should say so. Echo Valley Lodge, private amphibian plane waiting for you at the airport. Come at once, never mind the fee. Who is this Howard Manstead who tosses money around like confetti?
A well-known millionaire sportsman, Patsy. But, wouldn't it be more to the point to ask about the man who's disappeared?
Oh, you mean James Thurlow, the columnist. Why, he's... Say, who is he, anyway?
That's what you get for not reading the financial pages of the paper, Patsy. Well, come along. We've got to find a taxi and get to the airport.
Well, aren't we going to take anything with us?
Oh, yes, of course. I was forgetting.
I thought you were. I'll need my new dress.
We'll want Scubby. Call him and tell him to meet us at the airport. He knows Thurlow. They write for the same paper.
But why aren't we going to...
Oh, and one other thing, Patsy. Bring along Volume 3 of the Encyclopedia, E to H.
Scubby Wilson and Volume 3 of an encyclopedia. That's just what a girl needs for a visit to a millionaire's hunting lodge. Though seldom visited because of its somewhat inaccessible location, Echo Valley is a natural freak of singular interest.
I have friends you could say the same thing about, but the encyclopedia doesn't mention them.
Quiet, Scubby. Let Patsy finish reading.
Echo Valley is of great interest to scientists. Sounds occurring in certain areas of Echo Valley may be repeated as many as 13 times, echoing from cliff to cliff in gradually diminishing volume.
Why do encyclopedias always use so many words to say so little?
That's what I wonder about newspaper reporters sometimes, too.
So we'll change the subject? What else does it say?
That's all.
Well, that's no help. Thurlow certainly wasn't carried off by an echo.
Oh, he's probably just lost in the woods.
In any case, I don't see why Manstead insisted on you coming out to look for him, Nick. You're no Indian guide.
Patsy, if Thurlow isn't found alive, it may cost the public millions.
Millions? Well, he's just a columnist, isn't he?
Just a columnist? He's the smartest financial reporter in New York.
And Thurlow's more than just a reporter, Patsy. In the financial column he writes, he sometimes tips the authorities off to big stock swindles and other kinds of financial skullduggery.
Right. It was Thurlow who broke open the Nemo Bank scandal 3 years ago and sent the whole board of directors to prison.
And for some time, Patsy, Thurlow has been hinting in his column that he was on the verge of revealing some kind of tie-up between certain politicians and one or two big operators that would rob the public of millions.
Oh, then if anything happened to him now, before he's had a chance to tell anybody what he knew, the scheme would go through his schedule.
Right. That's why he went to Echo Valley Lodge. Manstead, an old friend of his, invited him out so he could work in peace for a few weeks.
Scubby.
Huh?
Is it true that Thurlow was on the verge of a nervous breakdown when he left?
Oh, he was walking around in circles talking to himself, Nick. He had almost all the dope he wanted, but he still hadn't got the name of the guy behind the whole scheme. He took along a whole bunch of records of stock transactions. He said they might give him the clue he needed. And, hey, look, ahead of us.
Echo Valley. It is, isn't it, Nick?
No doubt of it, Patsy.
But look, that isn't any Echo flying toward us.
A plane. Nick, it's a plane flying up out of Echo Valley.
Yes. Yes, it's a private amphibian.
I thought this plane of Manstead's was the only one in these parts.
Now, the pilot's seen us. Huh. He's turning out of our line of flight.
You suppose he wants to avoid us?
I'll bet he doesn't want us to see his markings.
He is trying to avoid us.
Oh, pilot, swing over so we can get a look at that plane down there.
Right, Mr. Carter.
He knows we're trying to get closer to him.
Look at him bank to avoid us.
He's turned back. He's heading away from us now.
Oh, pilot, overtake that plane if you can.
Yes, Mr. Carter.
Say, isn't that the Manstead hunting lodge down there, right on the edge of the lake?
Yes, Cubby, it is. But we're not going to land until we get some idea what that plane's up to.
Look, he's diving straight down now.
He's going to try to get away underneath us.
Oh, he'll never make it. Those private planes aren't built.
His wing is breaking off.
Couldn't take the strain.
He's heading straight for the ground if he hasn't got a parachute.
Oh, but he has. Look, he's jumping. There, the chute's opening.
And there goes his plane into the trees. Well, that was a narrow escape. He didn't have more than 500 feet of altitude.
Oh, he's come down on the top of that tall pine. He's caught there. See, his parachute won't come loose.
Yes. Well, we'll have to land and rescue him. Besides, I want to know why he was so anxious to avoid having his plane identified. Oh, pilot,
Yes, Mr. Carter.
land in the lake and taxi up as close as possible to the place that fellow came down.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute, Patsy. I'll lift this one up for you. There you
Watch
are.
out
Okay.
that branch doesn't
Thanks.
snap back in your face, Betsy.
Well, aren't we almost there?
Yes, there's the clearing. Just ahead. Only a few more steps.
Oh, and they say exercise is good for you.
Oh, there. There's his parachute. I think I can see him hanging among the branches.
He's hurt or he'd call to us. Come on.
His shroud lines are caught among the branches. I can see that much.
Well, he's just dangling there.
Yeah.
Hey, you up there. Can you hear us? You all right?
He doesn't answer. Look, I'll climb up and see if I can...
No. Wait.
What is it, Nick?
Look at those shroud lines.
They're wrapped around his neck.
Yeah. Look at the way his head is twisted to one side.
Yes. His neck's broken. He's dead.
What?
Oh. When he landed in the tree, he got tangled in the lines and...
I wonder.
Nick, what do you mean?
Look down at your feet, Scubby.
Cigarette butt.
Why, somebody must have been here before us.
Maybe. But its position makes me think the cigarette was smoked by him up there.
Oh, but that's impossible, Nick.
It's been just about an hour, Scubby, since he crashed. He knew we'd come after him. So if he was hurt and couldn't get out of his chute harness, what would be more natural than for him to smoke a cigarette and wait to be rescued?
But he's dead.
Because somebody reached him before we did. And murdered him.
And so that's the story, Mr. Carter. As much as we know, anyway. Thurlow just wandered away yesterday morning and never returned.
I see, Mr. Manson. And you don't think this mysterious airplane we met just before we reached here has any connection with Thurlow's vanishing?
Well, I don't see how it could. But then, as I said, I haven't the slightest idea where the plane could have come from or who was flying it.
Yeah. Now, let's go over the facts again, if you don't mind.
Oh, of course not.
Thurlow arrived here a week ago.
Yes, with his wife. I had them flown in my plane. They had the lodge to themselves with my permanent housekeeper to look after them.
And you arrived yesterday.
In the middle of the afternoon.
But Thurlow wasn't here when you arrived?
No, he'd already gone out. He told his wife he was taking his revolver along and would take pot shots at the trees and rocks.
So you never actually saw him?
That's right. The woodsman I employ to look after the property asked me to come and examine some trees he wanted to cut down. About sundown, I got back to the lodge, and Thurlow still hadn't returned. Mrs. Thurlow was becoming worried. I ordered the floodlights we used for landing the plane at night, but he didn't show up.
And then in the morning, you called me.
Well, first I phoned the nearest forest ranger station. And after that, Mrs. Thurlow was so agitated, I had promised I'd send for you.
Where is Mrs. Thurlow? I'd like to ask her a few questions.
Well, she's sleeping now. She was up all night, and this morning the housekeeper gave her a sleeping tablet. Shall we wake her?
No, not just now. There's still an hour of daylight left. I'd like to take a look around outside. Perhaps I'll
I'll open it.
Mr. Manstead,
Johnny, what is it?
his hat. We found it
Thurlow's hat? Where?
near the waterfall.
Why, that's not far. It's only a mile from here. It's still light. Do you want to come with us and look for him, Mr. Carter?
Yes, I think I do.
Gosh, my ankle. Oh, boy.
There's the hat, Mr. Manstead. In that bush.
But what in the world could Thurlow have been doing in here? This isn't a trail to the waterfall.
It isn't a trail at all as far as I'm concerned. It's a jungle.
It used to be a trail to an old one-room cabin, but there's no reason Thurlow would go there.
Well, maybe if we yell, he'll hear us. He might be in there with a busted ankle or something.
Go ahead and try, Scubby.
Thurlow! Thurlow! Good gosh, will you listen to that?
Well, that's one reason this is called Echo Valley. The cliffs around the waterfall down the trail make a perfect sounding board.
Well, if he didn't hear that, he must be dead.
If there's a cabin in there, we better take a look at it.
Right. I don't see what in the world Thurlow could have come this way for, but maybe he did. Let's find out. There it is.
Where, Manstead?
Oh, there, between those two trees. See it?
Oh, yes.
It's only another 40 yards.
Well, come on, then.
Oh, Scubby. Wait.
Well, sure, Nick, what is it?
That bare patch of ground there. Those footprints.
Thurlow's footprints.
You sure, Scubby?
Sure. I've seen those pointed shoes of his too often not to recognize the footprints anyplace. Come on, Nick.
Yes. I'm coming. Thurlow's a tall man, isn't he, Scubby?
He's a tall man like I'm Henry Ford. He's about 5'5". Why?
I thought that... Well, never mind. There's the cabin.
Gosh, it doesn't look as if it had been opened in years.
Well, it hasn't that I know of.
But there are Thurlow's footprints going right up to the door.
And somebody's opened the door recently. Look at these broken spider webs around the door jamb. But it won't open now.
Oh, here, let me try. It ought to open without any trouble.
Yeah, but it doesn't budge.
That's strange. Let's take a look through the window.
The window's boarded over. The boards haven't been touched.
I nailed the window up myself 3 years ago. Nobody came here since.
And someone has come here. Thurlow. And he must be inside now.
But the window hasn't been touched, and the door is barred on the inside.
It looks bad. We'd better break the door down.
Suppose we have old Johnny use his axe on it. That'll be quicker.
Of course. Johnny, smash the door open for us.
Stand back, please.
That door was locked to stay locked.
Starting to go. There.
That does it. It's open.
If you don't mind, I'd like to go in first.
Of course. It's dark inside. Here, take my flashlight.
Thanks.
There he is, Thurlow.
He's dead. He came here, bolted himself in, and shot himself with his own revolver.
Yes, he's dead, all right. And it does look like suicide, doesn't it?
Now, Mrs. Thurlow.
Jim couldn't have killed himself, Mr. Carter. He couldn't have.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Thurlow. I wouldn't intrude on your grief if it wasn't necessary. Now, first of all, what kind of mood was your husband in yesterday morning just before he disappeared?
He was very agitated.
Agitated? Well, do you know any reason why he should have been?
I think he just found a clue to the identity of the man he was seeking. The one behind this plot to upset the stock market.
Did he say who it was?
No, he just said he'd stumbled on a clue. And he was so shocked he could hardly believe the evidence. That was why he went out into the woods. He wanted to be alone to think the matter through.
Perhaps his notes will tell us what he found.
Yeah, I thought of that, Nick. After Mrs. Thurlow woke up and I talked to her while you and Scubby were out with Mr. Manstead, we tried to read his notes. But they're in some kind of a shorthand that nobody can read but himself.
I can make out a few words here and there.